It's time for more adjunct stories. And we have to admit, one of the biggest drains on our success and our time as adjuncts would be problem students.
Hey, James. I heard you're not going to be able to run with us today. That true?
Yep,
Why is that?
because I'm hurt.
Really sorry to hear that.
Now, I don't mean students with accommodations, giving extra time, subtitles on videos, those kind of things. I don't even mean students that show up late for class chronically, skip classes, they're always sick. I don't even mean those students. I mean students that have lacked something that is essential to student success, to your success as an adjunct, and that is they don't understand accountability.
Relax, Ted. It's just practice.
And I'm not even talking about students that are in our class because they have to be in their class, not because they just want to be with us and learn from us in a class. Students that have to take the course for their major or their minor or for a segment requirement in the gen ed curriculum. I teach a lot of those courses because I'm an adjunct. I'm not even talking about students that just have an extra hour or 5 to fill up and they take your course because it filled their schedule and it was okay and they thought they could get a good grade in whatever kind of course it is you're teaching. None of those students are the real problem that are a time drain.
You can't practice, you can't practice. You're hurt, you're hurt. It's as simple as that. But it ain't about that. At all.
The time drain and the toughest one to overcome are students that have never experienced and never been held to something.
So here we are, Jamie. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game. We're talking about practice.
Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show. And I have to tell you, in my career, I've struggled with accountability. You know that I'm a high school dropout that finally got their act together and then went to college and grad school and then more grad school and got into teaching for a living. And I should know firsthand and should be understanding of people who have struggled in their young life as students with accountability. Now, you know this experience too, because the longer you have been in school, the more accountability you have become, accountable for. They're no longer a parent-teacher check-in. You don't have to get your report card signed by mom. And the longer you go in higher education, the longer you realize that your success is something that you're accountable for, especially when you get into grad school and you're expected to basically create your own learning experience. And the teacher is not going to do it for you. Yep, that's what a grad school professor is usually like. And if you succeeded, which most of you watching this probably did, then you know what experiencing accountability looks like and how there's a learning curve to it. My father-in-law loved to remind me of a story that he had from his undergraduate years at the University of Missouri. He was a quadruple major. Okay, he's in one of his psych classes. And the first day, the prof gives him the textbook, goes through everything. They're about to come up on the midterm, and my father-in-law meets the professor walking to class. So he just walks along with the professor and has a conversation and asks a question. He said, hey, on the syllabus, you give us a textbook, and we all bought the textbook for the class, but you've never referred to it once in class. And the professor looked at him and said, the entire midterm and the entire final are based on just the textbook. Whoa! Now, here's something that I encountered a few years ago when it was becoming more and more common for students to be homeschooled, especially for high school. Sometimes they're homeschooled because of a parental problem with the school system. Sometimes the school system is struggling and they don't want their kid to be dragged down by that. So they do homeschooling. Some students in high school, they just run their own high school education. They end up finishing it quickly. You get 17-year-olds that are showing up for first-year college classes who have never actually sat in a classroom for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I've come to ask a question, and it comes off sounding aggressive or adversarial at first, and I've struggled with how to actually ask it, but I need to know if they were homeschooled. Not because I have anything against homeschooling. In fact, a lot of homeschooled students that I have are more accountable than others because they've had to run their own high school education. And because of that, I ask the question, not because they're the problem, but because a couple people that I've encountered, especially years ago, were homeschooled and it caused a problem. Here's what I mean. I was teaching at a private school. It was a religious-based school in the suburbs of Chicago. I won't tell you what school it is. I'll just spell it out. W-H-E-A-T-O-N. Okay. And as I showed up in my first year's teaching in the tenure track position, I gave a first exam to the class. And everyone did pretty well. I was really happy with their performance, but I got a call from the provost of the school. He never liked me, I never liked him. So anyway, I got a call saying, you're gonna get a call from a parent. Now, this was just before those privacy guidelines went into place about health records and academic performance. So this was just before it. So mom got wind of Junior's grade in the course. Junior did pretty well in the course, got a B- on the first exam, gave good answers, good responses. B- was a good grade for that course. But the provost warned me that mom was going to call and she was not happy. I said, okay, isn't that your job? That's probably why he didn't like me. But anyway, mom called not long after the provost and I hung up. And mom said, why did my little Johnny get a B- in your course? And I explained that a B- was a good grade, that Johnny was doing well, and that if Johnny continued to study, and if Johnny read the textbook, and if Johnny handed in assignments, that Johnny would do really well in the course, and that was a success. She complained and said, little Johnny has never received anything but an A in his entire educational life. And I said, really? All A's? All classes? Everything? She said, yes, and I should know because I was his teacher. I homeschooled him. Okay, Mom. I get it. Little Johnny is exceptional. Your little Johnny is unlike all other little Johnnies. But I reassured her, I said, your little Johnny is doing really well, and I'll be happy to work with your little Johnny personally to make sure that Johnny improves this experience. Can you imagine what little Johnny was talking to Mom about? It was either Mom was yelling at little Johnny or Mom was blaming me for little Johnny's B-. I think it was the second option, but I'm hoping it was the first, not for little Johnny's sake, but for my sake. But then little Johnny's mother went on and opened up the door. See, it was a religious school, and my course was in the humanities section, but it had to do with religious thought. That is how different religious approaches to culture explained and how people interacted with the world. It was a combination of social sciences, history, philosophy, and religious studies. That's my Ph.D. So she asked, and how can you give a grade in a class like that anyway? Sorry, little Johnny's mother, I don't know what you mean. This is an academic curriculum, and there are textbooks to read, and there are ideas that we're evaluated and graded on how well we understand and retain them and can use them in an argument to form a conversation about religious thought and culture. She said, well, but it's about religion, it's about what people believe, it's about private things, it's about opinions. How can you give an academic grade in a course that's all about religion? I said, well, there is an academic study of religion, and that's how little Johnny can get a B- in that course. Did I convince little Johnny's mom? I did not. Did I make the provost happy? I did not. Okay, one more quick story in this vein, and that is with the onset of new technologies like AI, ChatGPT and Bard, the Google product, and other AI extensions that are available, the first reaction recently at the university where I teach as an adjunct was to ban them completely and say that they violated academic integrity, and they added the statement to the academic integrity requirement that would be included on every syllabus. Sort of like the way they treated Wikipedia a few years ago. And it's really a Luddite response. You know, the Luddites, a movement against mechanization, the loss of jobs. So in England they went, and the Luddites, they destroyed the equipment. And rather than learning how to engage with it and use it for their example, they said, let's destroy it and prohibit it and prevent it. Why are we Luddites with new technologies and new developments? Rather than just embracing them and learning how to use them to benefit us, we just reject them and want to break them down. Okay. So instead of banning it, I required my students to use ChatGPT or Bard in a series of assignments. I said, use them on all assignments that you can use them. In fact, I required it on a couple of assignments. I made the students learn to use it. And they said, but this is banned, this is horrible. No, the Papal Index of Banned Books does not include ChatGPT or Bard. So I said, no, we are not going to ban it. We're going to learn how to use it. I do the same with Wikipedia. Even though high schools everywhere ban it, I require students to use Wikipedia for every assignment. I've explained it in a video about Wikiphobia, and you can check that out here. But whenever anybody wants to know something and they Google it, usually the first thing that's going to be on the top of the page, if there isn't a paid advertisement for it, is going to be the Wikipedia entry. And if we don't know at least as much as the average person would know Googling what that subject is by learning it from Wikipedia, then why are we paying tens and hundreds of thousands for our higher education when we don't know as much as somebody who can look on their smartphones and just Google it? So how about you? I bet you've got a story, an adjunct story, a teaching story about how you've run into a wall, brick wall, and somehow made it through, or kept your job, or kept things going, or learned something about how to actually do your job and help students be accountable in better ways. And if you've got a story, leave it in the comments below. I promise I'll read it and I'll love it, because I love it when you leave comments. And thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button while you're down there sharing your story? And hey, while you're down there doing all that, why don't you subscribe and ring the notifications bell too, while you're at it. I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks.
It's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. But we talking about practice right now.
But it's an issue that your coach
We talking about
continued to raise.
Man, I hear you. It's funny to me too. I mean, it's strange to me too. But we talking about practice, man. We're not even talking about the game, the actual game, when it matters.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm talking about practice. And you can't do it. Because you're hurt. Right? It's fine by me.